Two people, same world, different outcomes. Prince Andrew lost everything because of who he knew. His titles, gone. His reputation, destroyed. But word is, Meghan had the same connections, the same circles, the same names in her contacts. Yet she walks free while he was sacrificed. And the reason for that difference will make you question everything the palace has ever told you. Let's dive in.
You see that there's Meghan with her Cajuna hat?
There was like photos with her and Prince Andrew way back in the day when she was like in her early 20s. Wow.
If Meghan Markle has hang out with Karina, then she was separated from Jeffrey Epstein just by 1 degree.
Prince Andrew didn't need a conviction to be erased. Association alone was enough. His friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was scrutinized under a microscope, every photograph analyzed, every flight log examined, his past movements replayed on every news channel, his interviews dissected frame by frame. And once the narrative locked in, there was no escape. The palace moved quickly and decisively. Public appearances stopped without explanation. Royal duties ended abruptly. Patronages were stripped away one by one. And that moment changed everything because it established a standard that seemed absolute. From that point on, the message was crystal clear. If your proximity to Epstein's world threatens the institution, you are removed. No debate, no discussion. That standard came directly from the palace itself. So naturally, people started comparing situations. Because if association with Epstein alone was enough to destroy Andrew's life completely, then consistency matters. Fair treatment matters. But consistency is exactly where the questions begin to pile up. But the questions about Andrew's treatment were only the beginning of something much larger. Meghan Markle's past is often described as unremarkable. A struggling actress grinding through auditions, a briefcase model on game shows, a woman who made it purely on talent and timing. That story is neat and tidy, comfortable for everyone involved, and very, very carefully protected by powerful forces. But here's where things get uncomfortable. The same name that destroyed Andrew keeps appearing in whispers about Meghan, Epstein's social circles, the same elite networks, overlapping connections. Yet the palace stays silent. The press refuses to ask the hard questions. And when researchers online point to these patterns, it gets dismissed immediately.
Some speculation that she was on Epstein's yacht at one point in time.
Online researchers keep pointing to the same things year after year. Old photos that suddenly vanish from the internet. Old connections that never get explained. The mainstream press rarely touches these topics with any depth. When they do venture near, it's quickly dismissed as conspiracy or misogyny, and sometimes that dismissal is fair and justified. But dismissal without any examination creates a dangerous vacuum, and vacuums don't stay empty for long, especially when the same specific questions keep resurfacing year after year without answers, when the same names keep appearing in different contexts, but no one with authority seems willing to address them directly. Just silence that somehow feels louder than any denial would.
Sordid news, if they are true. Did Meghan Markle meet Prince Andrew before Harry via Ghislaine Maxwell?
But the silence becomes even more deafening when specific allegations emerge from that vacuum. The term yacht girl gets thrown around far too easily. Many women in entertainment have been falsely labeled with it. That's important to acknowledge up front. But context matters when examining patterns, and timing matters more than people realize. Photos of Meghan on luxury yachts didn't appear in isolation. They appeared alongside very specific names and locations already linked to elite networking circles, places where power brokers gather away from public scrutiny.
Unofficial biographer has suggested that Meghan Markle may have met Prince Andrew via Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein years before she met Prince Harry.
Does a photo prove anything on its own? Absolutely not. But when those same images are repeatedly scrubbed from online conversation, curiosity naturally grows. When articles disappear, when accounts get deleted, not because people want scandal for entertainment, but because people sense active avoidance happening in real time. And avoidance rarely calms suspicion in the human mind. It feeds it instead. The rumors don't survive because they've been proven in court. They survive because they're never properly answered or addressed. They're met with silence or angry deflection instead of clarity. And that's where the darkness begins to creep in, slowly.
This question was revisited by Summers, the author of Ghislaine Maxwell. She explored the connections between Markle, her close friend Marcus Anderson. Who is this guy? He is the link between so many things about Meghan Markle and Harry that...
But the yachts are only scratching the surface of a much deeper network. Soho House is often completely misunderstood by the general public. It's not a crime scene or some sinister location. It's a sophisticated networking ecosystem for the elite. Actors meet powerful financiers over cocktails. Models meet influential producers at private dinners. Ambition meets opportunity behind closed doors. Meghan's connection to Soho House is extremely well documented in public records. So are the people who moved her through elite social circles with remarkable speed. Doors opened quickly for her when others spent years struggling. Again, none of that proves any wrongdoing whatsoever, but it does prove something important: access. Significant access to power structures most people never touch. And access, as anyone in those circles knows, is power itself.
Suggesting that Markle's friend Anderson may have been a connector to Epstein as far back as 2001.
The problem arises when access intersects with deliberate secrecy, when certain names overlap in uncomfortable ways, when timelines blur and stories don't quite align, because power networks don't exist in isolation from each other. They overlap deliberately, they intertwine by design, and they protect themselves fiercely when threatened. And once you see that structure clearly, you start asking completely different questions. Questions that make powerful people very uncomfortable. But those uncomfortable questions lead directly to claims about someone who feels he was sacrificed unfairly. Prince Andrew has reportedly never accepted being the only one sacrificed. That claim has floated quietly through royal circles for years now. According to multiple royal insiders, Andrew believes others were deliberately shielded while he was publicly destroyed, that his connections weren't unique or even the most problematic. Again, that's alleged, but bitterness changes how people behave when they feel abandoned. People who feel unfairly isolated start talking eventually, not loudly at press conferences, but privately to friends they still trust.
Regina Giuffre's lawyer suggests calling Meghan Markle to testify in Prince Andrew case.
There have been persistent whispers that Andrew confided deep frustrations to certain people, that he felt deliberately isolated to protect others higher up. And whether those whispers are completely true or exaggerated, they add enormous pressure, because pressure always cracks silence eventually, especially when someone believes they're holding secrets no one else wants revealed. That doesn't mean dramatic revelations are definitely coming soon, but it means serious tension exists beneath the surface, and tension in these circles never stays completely contained forever. But the story doesn't stop with Andrew's feelings of betrayal and isolation. Prince Harry once spoke with absolute certainty about everything, about love conquering all obstacles, about truth being the ultimate weapon, about escaping toxic systems for freedom. But certainty can be heartbreakingly fragile when foundations shift. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Harry learned certain things much later than others did. Things that had been carefully kept from him. Things about Meghan's past connections to the very circles that destroyed his uncle.
Thor further said on Twitter, the Duchess of Sussex is controlled by the same forces that controlled Jeffrey Epstein.
Some sources claim Harry eventually learned about an alleged relationship between Meghan and Prince Andrew himself. Or perhaps he deliberately chose not to learn them at all initially. Denial can feel protective when you're in love, especially when accepting reality means accepting betrayal. Close observers claim his entire demeanor changed noticeably over time. Some experienced royal watchers suggest Harry eventually accepted realities he desperately didn't want to face. That realization, if it actually happened, would be absolutely devastating psychologically. Not because of public scandal or media attention, but because of profound betrayal, whether real or simply perceived as real. And betrayal doesn't need courtroom proof to hurt someone deeply. It only needs belief to settle into someone's mind. Once that belief takes root and grows, nothing feels stable or trustworthy anymore. But Harry's potential realization leads directly to the biggest question of all in this entire narrative. Buckingham Palace doesn't act emotionally about anything. ever. It acts strategically with long-term calculations. Scandals aren't managed based on morality or fairness. They're managed purely on institutional survival. Andrew was cut loose decisively because keeping him threatened the entire crown. That decision wasn't personal or vindictive. It was coldly institutional. So why the incredibly careful handling of Meghan's situation? Why the different standard? Some royal insiders believe exposing her complete past would also expose serious failures within the palace itself. Poor vetting that should never have happened, poor judgment from people who should have known better, the Epstein connections, the photographs that keep getting ignored, the overlapping social circles that should have raised red flags immediately. In other words, too many important people would be implicated in the fallout. Too many reputations would crumble simultaneously. And when consequences spread outward in all directions instead of staying contained inward, silence becomes official policy. But that doesn't mean the truth doesn't exist somewhere. It means timing matters far more than transparency ever will to these institutions. It means protection matters more than accountability. But delayed truth doesn't simply disappear into nothing. It just waits patiently. And waiting makes stories heavier and more dangerous, not lighter. But even that calculated silence isn't the final chapter of this increasingly dark story. This story doesn't scare people because of one single explosive rumor. It scares people because of relentless accumulation. Silence stacked carefully on top of more silence, protection layered deliberately on top of more protection, no clear answers to straightforward questions, no clear denials that would end speculation, just persistent, calculated avoidance that feels intentional. When patterns completely replace explanations, trust erodes rapidly. And once trust erodes in institutions, every single new detail feels ominous. That's why this story feels so much heavier now than it did years ago. Not because dramatic new evidence emerged suddenly, but because of sustained, consistent refusal to address old questions honestly. People don't need manufactured drama to feel deeply uneasy. They need inconsistency between what they're told and what they observe. And this narrative is absolutely full of glaring inconsistencies. The deeper you look, the darker everything feels. But darkness doesn't always mean guilt in any legal sense. Sometimes it means fear from those controlling narratives. Fear of what truth might reveal about systems everyone trusted. Two people. Same connections, different outcomes. Andrew fell because the palace decided he would. Meghan stays protected because the palace decided she must. And that difference reveals everything about how power actually works. Silence, once questioned, never sounds the same again. So, here's what we want to know. Do you think the palace is protecting Meghan to hide their own mistakes? Or is there something else we're all missing? Drop your answer in the comments below. And hype this video if you like that. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe because we're just getting started with these untold stories.